Welcome back. Tonight, nearly 6 months after Florida Supreme Court backed Governor Ron DeSantis' request for a statewide grand jury to investigate immigration-related issues, we're taking a closer look.
Yeah, this is why Fox 4 Investigates Katie Lagrone is now checking in on where the state's secret probe should be and why some advocates believe it's actually unfairly targeting children.
Months before funding these migrant flights from Texas to Martha's Vineyard, Governor Ron DeSantis made another unusual but attention-grabbing move against illegal immigration in Florida, getting a statewide grand jury to investigate crimes behind the who, what, where, and how migrants end up here illegally.
We have a responsibility in Florida to be able to fight back.
This is the governor announcing the move back in June.
The grand jury will examine the effects of those international networks on Florida and how they have violated Florida law.
Nearly 6 months after Florida Supreme Court approved his request, we wanted to know where this probe should be.
Florida state investigators, other individuals, should have begun offering evidence to the grand jury to, try to identify patterns, to identify groups of individuals or organizations that are actually engaging in this misconduct.
Andrew Arthur is a former immigration judge, now resident fellow at the D.C.-based Center for Immigration Studies. He's also a former staffer of then Representative DeSantis. While he's not involved in the state's investigation, Arthur wrote this article praising the governor's grand jury move, describing it as breaking ground, using state power to force change.
These should be the sorts of things that the Department of Justice at the federal level, the Attorney General Merrick Garland, should be investigating, and yet there seems to be a marked lack of interest in these things, even though we know that, the human carnage is real.
More often than not, a grand jury is to bring criminal charges, but more and more they're used for political purposes in order to draw attention to particular issues.
Stephen Crawford is a Tampa-based criminal defense attorney who's also not involved in the state's probe.
Given that this immigration is a federal issue, what is a state grand jury actually going to accomplish?
Well, that's an excellent question. Most of us have said nothing. What authority are they going to have to tell the federal government what to do? None.
While the order includes a laundry list of issues the grand jury could investigate, targets include local governments, international crime groups, and families who may conspire to smuggle unaccompanied migrant children into the state. Since last year, migrant kids have been a focus of the governor's illegal immigration efforts, starting with this executive order directing the state's Department of Children and Families not to renew the licenses of federally funded shelters that temporarily care for children who arrive in the state without a guardian. To date, that order has forced several to shut down.
It's concerning to me. It's heavily concerning.
Melissa Morantes with the Orlando Center for Justice tells me since the grand jury was approved, several of these shelters have had unscheduled visits by investigators, and some migrant children in need of the state's help, she says, aren't getting it.
We've seen a handful of children not being sheltered, where traditionally, if the child wasn't an immigrant child, they would have been sheltered by the Department of Children and Families. And we're not sure why that's happening.
It's unknown if the state's grand jury investigation has anything to do with these cases. Grand jury probes by nature are kept secret until a final report is issued or an indictment is handed down, which in this case may still be up to 12 months away. Katie Lagrone, Fox 4.